Hello, what's up everyone? I'm Yoshi Kasahara. 皆さんこんにちは。私はミリオンセラー英語高速メソッドシリーズの著者、笠原義和です。ご視聴いただきまして誠にありがとうございます。このチャンネルでは主に笠原式英語高速メソッドを使って初心者向けの英会話教材から中級者向けまでの英会話教材をまず扱います。こちら教材は私の方でオリジナルで文章を書いて、そしてうちの外国人のナレーター、そして日本人のナレーターを使って作り込んだものを用意しています。これを私が解説して学習していきます。で、2番目に長文です。この長文という意味はですね、長いパッセージを意味します。だから書いてある文章であったり、または実際に流れてくるリスニングを学習していきます。で、英語高速メソッドというのは高速で英語を頭から読み解いていきますので、英会話の他にも長文にはものすごく役に立ちます。で、この頭から即座に読み込んでいく、この技術を皆さんに習得していただいて、長文もどんどんと読めるようになっていただきたいと思います。さあ、本題に入る前に、まず手短に私の略歴を自己紹介したいと思います。まず私は書籍160万部を突破しているミリオンセラー英語高速メソッドシリーズの著者です。これの本のことで私のことをご存知の方も多いかと思います。で、略歴と言いますと、まずどんな勉強をしてきたか。で、まず私、アメリカへ留学したんですけど、その後、イギリスの大学院を2つ行っています。1つがですね、ロンドンの、北の方にあります、ハートフィールドのところにあります、University of Hertfordshire の大学院で MBA、Master of Business Administration を取得しました。これは修士号なんですけど、経営学の修士号を取得しました。その後、University of Southampton、そこでですね、MA in ELT、ね、Master of Arts in English Language Teaching、ね、英語教授法の修士号を取得いたしました。で、私はずっとですね、もう中学校ぐらいから英語の語順と日本語の語順の違いについてすごく注目していました。もう一つは、スピーチコンテストなどを覚えるときに、高速で覚えるということのうまみをちょっと知っていたので、それを組み合わせて日本、オーストラリア、韓国で特許を取得いたしました。そんなこともありましてですね、私は日本、アメリカ、イギリスで20年以上の英語と日本語の教育経験があります。そんなことで、まずアメリカで、近年ですね、評価をしていただくことが多くなり、アメリカ・ニューヨークでアーバート・ネルソン・マーキーズ・アワードという賞を受賞いたしました。その後、同じニューヨークでトップ・エデュケーターズ・アワードという賞も受賞しました。それからですね、アメリカ人の著名人メーカーにも掲載させていただいています。で、これは The Market Who's Who in America、これの75th Commemorative Version、75巻、ね、記念バージョンに登場させていただいています。それからニューヨークの雑誌、ミレニアムという雑誌の表紙とか特集ページなんかもやらせていただいています。それからタイムスクエアのですね、スクリーンにも出たりしたことがあります。こんなことでアメリカでも評価されています。このようなことから皆さんも私をぜひ信頼していただいて、学習していただければと思います。それでは本日のテーマに入っていきます。本日はインタビュー企画です。私の友人でもあるジャーナリスト、オーストラリア・メルボンのジャーナリストからの質問が入っています。で、オーストラリア・メルボンといえば、オーストラリアの南の方ですね。南ですから、逆に南半球ですから、シドニーよりも寒い感じです。で、よく美しいガーデンシティとも言われているところです。そこの在住のジャーナリストから私に対して、この実は夏にね、オリンピックについていろいろとインタビューを受けましたので、その動画を今上げたいと思っています。皆さんね、よく聞いてみてください。それでは、Are you ready? Let's get started. Here we go.
We've had some awesome expert guests throughout this Tokyo Daily series, but I felt just one piece has been missing to really get to know the stories behind the Olympics. And I'm joined tonight by a Japanese local born and bred in Tokyo. He's here to talk about all things Olympics and all things COVID from a Japanese perspective. His name is Yoshi Kasahara. And Yoshi, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. So, do you want to talk about the Olympics and the COVID-19? So that was a really, that was a big issue, and that was a really strange kind of way to start the Olympics. And then people are not so happy about that. Maybe we can talk about that.
Exactly. That's exactly what I've got you on the show to talk about. So I'll start with a very simple question. Do you think the Olympics should be happening?
Actually, I think everyone was so happy when Tokyo was chosen as a kind of a 2020 Olympics before the COVID started. So after the pandemic, so people were worried, and then I think the Prime Minister Abe postponed 1 year. So I think the government and people thought that would be all right in 1 year. Maybe we didn't know. But actually, this year is even worse. So it's even worse. So and people are not so happy about that. Many people are against. But the government and IOC, International Olympic Committee. So those two, I think IOC and Japanese government kind of started. So and then people didn't say or didn't. I don't know. People actually protested, and people are so against, but the government didn't listen to us. I don't know why. So that was kind of happening. Yeah.
So are the protests just about all these thousands and thousands of athletes coming in from overseas? That's the main
That's right.
core?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were surprised. Oh, they're coming, and then we were surprised. Wow, we've got to start. Because so many people came over to Japan and then to compete in the Olympics. So if he said no, and I'd be so sorry because they were ready. So that's what we felt. So yeah.
So I think there were over 11,000 athletes coming into Japan throughout the games, which is an incredible number, really. But why do you think the government has insisted and kept the games going?
I think when the Olympic Games started, I think the COVID even went worse. So many more people were suffering from COVID-19. But I think maybe the reason was one of the reasons is IOC. IOC said, we can't stop now. So, and the secondary, probably money. I'm not sure. So, probably, because I don't know. So, I think the Prime Minister Abe, resigned because he was sick. He worked so hard. So, and then after that, Suga, Mr. Suga, took over it, and then he is a kind of he looks kind of a weak type of person, and then maybe someone is controlling him, or just maybe by himself, maybe wanted to do the business. But what I heard was, I don't know if it is true, but one of the dispatching companies in Japan, and it's one of the biggest, or maybe it's only the biggest one, Persona. The president of Persona, Hazel. So he's a really good businessman, and then he wanted to make money on the Olympics, and those companies really wanted to do the Olympics. So I thought, or people thought, maybe postpone 1 more year. So because vaccine shortage going around, so maybe 1 year would be much kind of easier to hold the Olympics, or maybe just not having it. Well, many people had that kind of feelings. So we don't really know the reason. So, but I think people say like no more Olympics, no Olympics, but still. So, what do you think as what do you think as an Australian or in Australia? What people say about that? Do you have anything?
In Australia, lots of people honestly, to be honest, lots of people in Australia are very happy that it's happening because we have lots of lockdowns here and people can just watch sport all day from their couch. And I think they understand that it's probably not the right thing to do in terms of COVID, but they're grateful for something to watch and something to keep them entertained because it's sport non-stop for 2.5 weeks.
That's right. And we don't have lots of time differences, so it's really good.
One hour between Melbourne and Tokyo. But you were speaking about the politics before. Prime Minister Suga at the moment, you described him as weak, and he's 72-year-old Prime Minister. That's very old for any world leader, no matter where they are. And I had a guest on the show a few days ago called Scott McIntyre. He's an Australian guy who's living in Japan. And he was speaking about how at the moment you're having record cases over there, 3,000 or 4,000 cases a day in Tokyo. But he thinks they might be hiding some numbers and not doing enough tests. And then once the Olympics are over, the numbers are going to increase. They're going to go into a big lockdown because there's an election coming up at the end of the year. What do you think about that?
That's really true. Maybe it's the Liberal Democratic Party is the one that's kind of ruling. That is a ruling party. So they think that's because people were against before the Olympics, but when it started, people were so happy actually watching it because Japanese people are doing really well. Japanese athletes are doing really well, and Australian athletes are doing well also. Many, especially swimming. So swimmers are really doing really well. I think almost everyone is happy. So and then that's probably one of the reasons that Liberal Democratic Party says, "Oh, you say you guys said we shouldn't have Olympics, but you become so happy, and maybe that was a good thing. So we started." So that is something that they want to say, I think, because of the election. So maybe so, maybe not. I'm not sure, but and also many people think that it's only for money, but we don't really have audience there. So
exactly.
No, we don't really make Japan doesn't make money though. So it's kind of also just paying money and then not so much revenue. So maybe
not making anything back.
That is, but still, I think people are happy about that. So, but I'm very glad you said Australians are happy about that. So, the Olympics.
Yeah, so I want to talk a bit. Sorry, I'd like to talk a bit more about the COVID side of things for Japan because obviously you're still in a state of emergency over there, and it's been extended to different prefectures around the country.
State of emergency, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So you're living in Tokyo. I'm not sure if we mentioned that before, but I think there are 3,000 or 4,000 cases a day that are reported, but there are only 10, maybe 20,000 tests done every day. It's one of the biggest cities in the world. Not many tests. So for you personally, have you found it hard to, almost impossible to get a test when you need to have a test?
Actually, we don't. Actually, Japanese people don't think so much about the PCR testing so much. That is true because we don't know where to go, and we don't know what to do. So, and when you feel fine, and then we just think that maybe we don't have COVID, we don't have COVID-19. Maybe it's okay. So, very few numbers. So people, when you become really sick. When you do something when you giving birth, women have a PCR test. So something like that. We don't very small numbers of people, and then I think, but still now I think over 2,000 people in Tokyo got COVID-19 every day. So I don't know if it's good. So and still so many numbers. So I'm not sure if it is good. And people, I think, don't know so much about PCR testing is really good. Or what do you think? In Australia, are there so many people taking that examination?
In Australia, so Sydney, another city, the biggest city in Australia, they're in the middle of a big outbreak. It's not as big as Tokyo, but it's pretty big for an outbreak in Australia. And they had record tests yesterday. They had something like 117,000 tests in one day in Sydney.
Wow.
And the messaging from all the governments over here, it's all about if you have any symptoms of COVID at all, if you have a slight runny nose or a slight cough or a slight fever, you have to get a test and you can't go out anywhere. So what's the government messaging like in Tokyo and in Japan more broadly?
It's very different from what your government does. So it's kind of different. We say, the government says it's usually when you feel really sick, call the health department of your regional health department. And the health department kind of operator will answer you. And, I'm very sick. Oh, wait, but I need an ambulance. We don't know, so maybe you're not so sick or something. So just they classify people, and then probably 4 levels, basic or just the beginning, and I think the intermediate or something, in the middle with two levels, and then really bad. So recently, government says like only really bad people should be in the hospital, admitted to the hospital.
Yeah.
Other people should stay at home or stay the hotels that government will prepare, or the provides. So it's kind of strange. So some people, when they are not suffering so hard, but then become so sick later, very soon, and then some people just die because they really don't have time to go to the hospital. So, I don't know. So it's the government. I don't know what's going on. So, what do you think? So
it all sounds very confusing over there, but I'm very interested to know. So there are in Tokyo there aren't restrictions that you have to follow. I know there are just guidelines and
guidelines.
Yeah. So the like you can't have alcohol. Places can't serve alcohol after 7 p.m. and places have to close by 8 p.m. But in terms of your life, like the way you live your life day to day, how different does it look now compared to how it looked before COVID?
Okay, that's very different. Like shops are forced to close down. So I think that for the first state of emergency, shops probably didn't open, most of the shops or the restaurants. But now they have the time like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock or something. So, and some shops or restaurants and bars are so against, we just open it. So, but now I think government is more strict about that. So people are kind of it's a kind of big argument. So, but we don't really go out for a drink. So it's really difficult. Shops are closed, and then some actually when the shop, one of the shops is open, so many people, and it's so dangerous. I think because so it's so congested and then no barriers or nothing. So I think it's also a problem. So and people are not so happy because shop owners we can't continue our business because for the bars or the restaurants, selling alcohol makes more money selling food. So they're not so happy about that. And people who work in Tokyo not so happy. So we just go commute in kind of downtown Tokyo and go back home. So it's not so fun. So because for one, it's kind of 4 times or like almost year around So state of emergency in Tokyo. So it's not a good thing. So, and we don't know if it works. So, if you don't drink alcohol and then COVID goes away, I don't think it's true. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mask,
Yeah.
I understand the mask. So Japanese people like to wear mask. So people wear masks. Yeah.
Even before COVID, lots of people in Japan wear masks. But what about your work? Do you? I don't know where you usually work. Do you usually work in an office? And are you working in an office still at the moment?
Yes, I work in my office, but it's close to my house, and I don't. Japanese people usually take trains, but I don't. I usually drive to work, so it's not a big problem. And then, but the change was like when you do something like seminars now become webinar, so seminars become webinars. So for my business, it's not so bad, but still, when we have to do some dialogue programs, because I teach English, like one person, like, and then two people talk about something, and it's really difficult. So because if one of them have the COVID and it's previous, so and then people say, it's a cluster, so it's not a good thing for us. So it's affecting my business, but it's not as bad as other people's business, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think in Australia? Yeah.
Well, lots of people in Australia, because we have such strict rules about lockdowns. Whenever we have just like 1 or 5 or 10 cases, we go into strict lockdown. So there are some people who support that, and there are some people who say, you have to let us free. We have to learn to live with the virus, and because it's not going to go away until we get everyone vaccinated. But I want to speak about vaccinations in Japan. The vaccination rate isn't great. It's better than Australia's. Japan is at 39.9% of people have had one dose, and 29.3% have had both doses. In Australia, only 15.4% of people have had both doses.
So do you think the vaccine works? So, people are sometimes worried about that. Does it really work? First question. And then secondary is a side effect. So the side effect is really scary or something? People always talk about that.
Yeah. So
what do you think? Yeah.
Well, what I think, I haven't been vaccinated yet. I haven't had either dose because the vaccine rollout here has been so bad. I haven't been able to have a dose yet. But in Japan, what's the common view? Are there lots of people who are against vaccinations, or are people willing to take it?
I think majority of people are not against. I think people are happy to take a kind of the shot. So I think maybe over 65 years old, like people, like elderly people, I think are almost finished. I think they're happy about that. And not very people die from the vaccination or anything. So, but people have, after that, people commonly have high fever, lots of pain, so lots of shoulder ache, so stiff shoulder, and I don't know, so become really sick. Especially the second after the second shot, that is a kind of common way, and that's something I'm a little bit worried about. So I got the ticket in the middle of June, so I can go to my regional doctor and take it. So, but I haven't done it. So I don't know. It's kind of, I'm a little bit scared about that. So, but my immune system maybe might kind of fight with those kind of vaccine or something, vaccine. So that's what I'm worried. So, yeah.
Yeah, on one hand, I understand fully why people are hesitant about it, because there have been people who have died, and there have been people who have been sick. Like almost everyone gets a little bit sick after they have a dose, but some people have died, and that's been just so unfortunate. But it's so, on the other hand, it is so unlikely for it to happen. But I do understand how people don't want to take that risk, even considering how unlikely it is. But I want to move on to off the vaccinations and onto the sports side of things regarding the Olympics. So, like you said before, Japan are doing really well. I think at the moment they're second or third in the medal tally. So, are you personally watching much of the Olympics, and are most people watching the Olympics on TV?
I think so. I think on TV, yes. Most people watching the games on TV. So, and people are so excited about watching it. Oh, Japan's doing really well. Wow, we're sad he didn't win the medal or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's in contrast. It's different to what other guests have said from Japan. But the people that are against the Olympics happening, are even they getting excited, or are they trying to ignore it?
I think, we are against because of the COVID-19 prevailing, because of the pandemic. So we are worried. But, so it's still, we have that kind of idea, like, it's not a good thing. It's not good. So, but on the, at the same time, when Olympic started, so I was good. It was really good because athletes are doing, trying so hard, and we watch it every day and so happy, but it's kind of now it's a very different matter. So we are happy watching the games, Olympics, but also we are not so, we are kind of very sad, or we are very against what the COVID-19 is prevailing. So it's both happening. So I think people kind of are not so happy about our government. Government didn't explain us. So before the COVID-19, before the Olympics. So
okay,
that is something what people talk about. So yeah.
So this government, they've been in power almost the whole time since World War II. They've been in power almost the whole time. So do you think there's any chance at all in this upcoming election that they lose power, they lose the election because of the way they've dealt with the Olympics and the way they've dealt with COVID-19?
Yeah, that's really happening, I think. I think if people are, at the election, if people still kind of against, or people are still worried about it or opposed, so people don't vote for LDP, Liberal Democratic Party, and then other parties. But other parties, I don't know, we don't really know, because the Democratic Party, they, I think, took the control and they were ruling party for 3 or 4 years, and then Japan was not doing really well. The economy wasn't really good, and yeah, I think we also have a bad experience when we had opposing party. So that's one of the reasons I think LDP, still we are doing really well, and they are just happy about that or something. So I don't know, but people definitely don't vote for LDP at this time, maybe the next time, I guess.
Okay, so for the listeners who don't know so much about Japanese politics, which is most of them, I imagine, LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party, are they more right-wing or more left-wing?
Yeah, it's actually right-wing, right? Definitely. Okay. It's not a left-wing, so yeah, it's a right-wing party, so.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But I promised we'd talk about the sport a bit, so I'll move back onto the sport. So
both either one is fine. Yeah.
One of the biggest superstars around the world from Japan is Naomi Osaka, but
yes.
So she's one of her parents is from Haiti, one of her parents is from Japan. She was born in Japan, but when she was 3 years old, she moved to America, so she hasn't really lived in Japan much at all. So how do people in Japan view her? Do they view her as a true Japanese person, or someone that was born in Japan but then just kind of moved to America, not really one of our own?
I don't think people think of her like a nationality so much, because Naomi Osaka is really a nice person and trying really hard. I think wherever she is from, we're happy about that. So I think many people are a big fan of her. So we don't we don't really talk about so much about her nationality. But because when she says like I'm Japanese and my mother's Japanese, and we're happy about that. So I think probably because she's so good. So because of her father's kind of descent. So because of that, so she's doing really well. But still, we are happy because she loves Japan, and I think we are happy about people. If people say like, oh, I like Japan, like, and I think we have nothing more about that. So if she says, oh, I don't like Japan, and I'm not Japanese or something, so we don't consider as she as a Japanese, but she's happy. Oh, I'm Japanese, and I like Japanese people, and I'm half Japanese, and I'm from Japan, and people are happy about that. So, and that's probably the only thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Are there any? Is she the biggest sports person in Japan, or are there people who are close to her or bigger than her in Japan?
Yeah, she's one of the most kind of famous and well known and one of the most popular athlete. But
so
we have
who
many
are the other
different
ones?
athletes. Okay. So not in the Olympics, the Shohei Ohtani. Have you heard of him?
No.
Shohei Ohtani is a World Baseball League in America.
Okay.
So
right.
he's like a monster. He does really well, and he's not a half Japanese. He's just a Japanese, but he does really well. Lots of if you don't know the baseball rules or something, not so understanding really well, but it's really good. And also we have Hashimoto, Mr. Hashimoto, who's a gymnastic. So he does gold medal, and then he does really well. He's only 19 years old. Mm-hmm. And also a girl, Ohashi, she won two gold medals. Yeah, Ohashi, she got two gold medals, and it's amazing. And we talk about that kind of things, and we have some famous people, but Yui Ohashi wasn't really popular or before Olympics. So because she was in Olympics and then two gold medals, and she's great. So that's kind of one of our feelings. So
I think that's
Australia.
I think that's a very common thing for swimmers, because the Olympics are the biggest thing for swimming. It's the same with Australia. Yeah. Once you win a medal at the Olympics, you get really big. But if you don't, no one really knows who you are, because the Olympics is what everyone watches. No one watches the other swimming events. I'm guessing it's the same in Japan. Is that
in
right?
Australia too? Yeah. But sometimes we hear world, any world competitions, and then someone is we had Seto, Daya Seto, or some other people. We are expecting, he's got gold medal or something, but he didn't do really well, in the first place or something. So it depends. So some swimmers become really popular before Olympics, and then maybe they do really well, but they can't do really well after in the Olympics. So it depends.
Yeah.
So
okay. Now, one more thing about the kind of crowds and the Olympics. So Japan's Tokyo especially, it's a very crowded place. There are lots of people. Shibuya Crossing is a famous one on the trains. It's crowded everywhere. So there are some people saying that maybe they should let a few people, maybe a few hundred, into the stadiums for the Olympics and just spread them all out, because then if they're all spread out, they can't get COVID. Well, it's unlikely that they get COVID because they're so far away. Do you agree with that or no?
That's a kind of good idea, because it's so congested in Tokyo. So I know maybe it's a good idea. So not only in Tokyo, maybe in other places. So but probably without the COVID-19, people are happy. So in different places, but so right now I think people are still worried about COVID. So maybe it's good. Maybe it's, I don't know. So because it's, but anyway, a few people. But now I think nowadays we don't have any audience. So it's a good thing probably. So not. What do you think?
Yeah.
So it's not a good. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but like in terms of if people were going into the stadium, let's say there's a stadium which can fit 2,000 people, and they let 100 people in, and they sit one person in every 20 seats and spread them all out. So, what do you think about that? Do you think that would be a good idea?
Just one person, 20 seats.
And
something
so
like that.
it's they let some people in, but it's mostly empty, so they can safely spread them all out within the arena, within the stadium. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think government try to do that. So maybe half of the people, like like a quarter, or even like fewer people, but then and still government decided no audience. I think it's a good idea. So no audience. So because one person, I think if it's in, I think it works, because if it's congested, so many people, but one person in 20 seats, so maybe it works. Yeah, it works. So it's almost like no people. So, but still they shout. So
that's very true. And they, within the Olympics, before they stopped crowds from being allowed, I think they said if you're going to go to any of the events, you're not allowed to yell, you're not allowed to chant, no singing, and so just to not spread the virus. But in terms of one more thing on like COVID and the Olympics and their relationship with each other, how's the media been representing it in Japan? Is it all about the Olympics, or because the COVID crisis in Tokyo especially, it's very, very bad, like we've been talking about. Have they been talking about that enough, do you think, or have they been talking about the Olympics the whole time?
People talk about the COVID, but almost always at the same thing. What's going on? Like shops, they're so sad, or so many people. It's kind of more like prevailing more and more, going around everywhere. Well, just that kind of things all the time. So people are really tired of that.
That makes sense. But we've been going for about 35 minutes, Yoshi, and that I've been not spend too long with you. So it's been great talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Yoshi. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
So Harper, thank you so much.
さあ、皆さんどうでしたか？彼はオーストラリア、メルボルン、メルボルンのアクセントがあります。そこがちょっと聞きづらかったかもしれません。これからは、アメリカ人、イギリス人、いろんな方のインタビューをやっていきます。すごく綺麗なアクセントの方もいれば、その地方の代表的なアクセントを持っている方もいます。そんな方たちの英語も聞いて楽しんでみてください。それでは、Thank you so much。こういうのも含めて皆さんどんどん見ていってください。So, please subscribe to my channel. チャンネル登録をしてください。さあ、ありがとうございます。それでは、Thank you for watching. See you next time. See you. Goodbye.